Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Good day to all of you. It's afternoon in the beautiful city of Abuja. But those of you who are living in the diaspora, it is my pleasure to welcome you to another edition of Money Radio. This is the energy focus of the program, and this is from Leadership TV. You're welcome. Today we're discussing an issue that is troubling Nigerians this week, especially Nigerians living in Lagos and Port Harcourt. Yes, um, during the week we have seen the return of long queues again, and we're talking about queues for fuel. And so we want to discuss the issue, and the topic we are discussing is adulterated fuel saga and NNPC's oversight. It's the adulterated fuel saga and NNPC's oversight. The reason why we are having fuel crisis again, we thought this thing was history, but we are having it again, and it's because dirty fuel has been withdrawn from the market. Fuel that right now we see people trading blames, but dirty fuel that is worse in terms of quality than what is produced in the creeks of the Niger Delta. That is what people have been using. A few unlucky or a few unfortunate people have used that fuel, and it's going to affect their engines. So we are discussing the issue today on energy focus, adulterated fuel saga, and NNPC's oversight. So how did we get adulterated fuel into? Sorry, before we go ahead, let me introduce Mr. Yes, this is Mr. Anthony Uko, our in-house analyst, and of course, you know she always does justice to the program. So you're welcome.
Thank you.
And I'm your host, Case Hammer. So let's go back to our issue. How did we get here? How did NNPC, which is supposed to be the regulatory body, allow? Is that the fuel we're seeing? How did they allow such fuel into the country?
After so much speculation by in some quarters, on Tuesday the NNPC, or the midstream and downstream regulatory authority, finally came out to admit to Nigerians that there was fuel petrol in circulation that had methanol, that the methanol quantity in it was higher than what is specified for Nigeria. So that made the rumor, the specification, the speculations that we've been having true. So, according to the authorities, that is what is responsible for the adulterated fuel that we have had in circulation in Lagos and in Port Harcourt, and then some neighboring cities.
Yeah.
So,
of course, we'll talk about Lagos. We'll be
yes.
talking about places like Ogun State.
Yes, yes.
Ota.
Ota.
All of those places are affected.
So, but we've had from reports that up to over 300 million liters of this product was actually brought into the country, and now it's been evacuated out, and fresh orders being sought to replace that. And that is how we've had long queues, not just in the areas where this fuel got to, but it has extended to other parts of the country, like we've seen it here in Abuja and in other parts, because of the product was just not available.
You know, it dumbfounds the normal thinking person. Uh, you know, the report really says that the fuel is actually worse than what is produced in the Niger Delta. in the creeks of the Niger Delta. We talk about illegal bunkering, and of course, you know those illegal refineries, and those guys actually who have knowledge, but they don't have the equipment. Yeah, they produce, and those things are sold on the market. Take it or leave it, they are sold on the market. But even as bad as
they
that,
have to be sold on the market.
yes,
Or
of
else
course,
they
there'll be
wouldn't-
no
they
profit.
wouldn't- Yes, they
So
wouldn't be
take
doing
it or leave it. What the report says is this fuel that was brought into the country is worse than what is produced in the Niger Delta creeks. Now, you know the thing is of interest.
Yeah.
And when I say interest, I'm talking about, okay, let me also use the word interest, is of concern. Because this is not the first time such a thing is happening. In 2020, there was a report released in the Guardian newspaper of London, the Guardian of London, that talked about a very similar thing, that this fuel that is being produced here or that is being imported is worse in terms of quality than what is being done, what is being produced in the Niger Delta, on the creeks of the Niger Delta. That is what that report says. That tells us clearly that this is not something that is starting today. It has been in practice. And who knows, before that report in the Guardian newspaper, who knows how long this practice has been going on. So we clearly see that this thing is not today, because as I said, it was reported in 2020, I remember. And it was based on a study. Some of the fuel from the Niger Delta was taken from the filling stations. Of course, those are filling stations that are approved to sell fuel. Were taken and then taken to London and put tested in the lab, and they found out that what is produced in the Niger Delta is better than what was being produced. And of course, those countries that we're talking about, which produce this dairy fuel, are the Netherlands and Belgium. That's where you have 80% of Nigeria's fuel coming from. And of course, this dairy fuel is there. Now, the law in the European Union is that kind of fuel should never be brought to use there. But they allow the export of those of such dairy fuel to countries that are willing to buy. You understand? Yes, it is quite an insult.
You know, it's the entire drama that we've been witnessing in this country, where so many of the things that should be working well are not working. You can imagine where Nigeria is one of the highest in terms of production of crude oil, and we still have to import petrol for use within the country. And then now we are seeing this, and now the question now goes to okay, so what really is the body that is responsible, that has the regulatory oversight over what happens within the sector? What are they doing? And even to go further from merely being in regulatory oversight over this industry, for a long time, the NNPC has been the sole importer of petrol into Nigeria for consumption, because of the subsidy regime that still subsists within the country. So now the NNPC has come out to say to list the culprits.
We want to know those culprits because, of course, yesterday there were a few names released that that as culprits of the importation of this.
In fact, we've been having how will I put, name calling, because the first person or the first organization to come out to say I am not responsible for this was MRS.
Yes, MRS. And they say MRS actually pointed the blame at the
Duke Oil, which is a subsidiary of the NNPC.
Yes, they are a subsidiary of the NNPC.
No. And now, in fact, they took advertisement in most of the major papers,
Mhm.
distancing themselves from this adulterated fuel. And then the NNPC has come out to say, to list four culprits, namely MRS,
Mhm.
Wando, the Duke Oil is part of it, and of course the Emadeb Consortium.
Now, if the sole importer of fuel is the
The
NNPC, how
NNPC
did this fuel get into the country?
into the country.
And how now they are blaming Emadeb, they are blaming
Wando
Wando
blaming.
and MRS.
Are there no
Huh?
people on ground who should check the quality of what comes in?
And funny enough, the NNPC was fast enough to say, these are the people. These guys are saying, no,
Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. Does their coming out to name the so-called culprit, does it remove the culpability of them?
if we should go by what there was this when we were growing up. In fact, there's still a kind of norm that we have in households.
Mm.
Whenever something bad happens,
Yes.
the first person to say, "It's not me,"
It's not-
check that person.
and in a house where
Yes.
in a home where you have many children,
Yes.
all of them will keep saying it's not me.
It's not
At
me.
the end of the day, it will now be Mr. Nobody.
Yes, that is it.
Yes. So now NNPC has been passed. Okay, first it was MRS who came out to say, no, I'm not part of this. It didn't come from me. And then NNPC has the big
And
boss.
NNPC, I remember NNPC said, the government, of course, the government is NNPC. The NNPC is the government, and they said, we are going to dig into this and we'll deal with the culprits. So who are they going to deal with here? We wait to see the culprits. Who are they? For now, we are having blame trading,
Yes.
and we are looking for the culprit. And if you ask me, so I think some people need to be sued because of this, because this thing has, like I said, it's not now, because the Guardian of London reported this thing in 2020. So it's not now. We're not talking about now. There needs to be a study about this issue. There needs to be a study on how this thing is being imported into the country, beginning from those days or whenever it started. And not only that, this thing has caused problem for people. It has got people's engine. But then looking at it from a greater perspective, what about health? If we're living in Occidental countries, or not Occidental countries only, but Oriental countries also, where crimes like this, you are easily executed. If we're living in places like that, people will be actually executed because of this. Because it's evil. It's evil. It is it's evil, just to say the least. It's evil. You do things and not caring about how it will impact the society. It's evil. So people actually need to be brought to book, and it's not just about
playing
lip service.
It's not enough to come out with bogus words and say we are investigating it. We're going to ensure that the those who are found
guilty will be brought to book.
will be
And
brought to
Nigerians,
book.
being who Nigerians are, they easily forget about these things. Oh, let's move on. It's in the past.
It's in the past.
It's not in the past, because if these people are not brought to book, if examples are not made of these people, they will continue to do this thing. It won't be long before we hear another unfolding saga about this kind of sadly practice. It's evil, really. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we want to talk about the way forward, how to stop. Stay tuned.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back, viewers. You are still welcome to Money Radio. This is energy focus of the program, and we are talking about the dirty fuel saga that has gripped Nigerians over the past few days. And talking about how this thing happened in the first place and how to forestall it in the future. In the studio with me is Mr. Anthony Uko, and I'm your host, Case Hammond. So, listen, let's go to the regulatory aspects first of all. As a continuation, we have been talking about it, but we didn't go deep into it. Let's talk about the regulatory. Who is supposed to regulate this, if not the NNPC? Is it not the NNPC?
Well, as we speak, I would say that there is a kind of, how would I put it, I wouldn't call it a lacuna because, with the signing of the Petroleum Industry Act into law,
Yeah.
that has put this under the regulatory purview of the midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authority.
Yeah.
So, but now Nigeria seems to find itself in a fix where the PIA has been signed into law and it should be in operation. And just last month, the presidency upped and proposed that the implementation process be stalled by the next 18 months. So now, and then the same presidency came out to say, to query the hedge of the Nigerian midstream, downstream petroleum regulatory authority. So are we saying, where are we at right now? Are we implementing PIA? In which case, the midstream, downstream regulator should be in charge? Or is the NNPC, which is now an incorporated company, is it the NNPC that is in charge? I think
So we really don't know who's in charge.
that is actually because if the implementation of PIA is being taken further, is not yet fully in effect, is being postponed by 18 months, does that mean the NNPC still remains as it were before PIA, or is the midstream and downstream regulator that is created by the coming on board of the PIA now in charge? So these are things that would need to be sorted out for
I
Nigerians
want
to
to ask you a
know
question.
clearly
Mhm.
where we are at.
And by asking that question, I want to ask you again: are we really in or in the regime of the PIA or PIB? Because we seem to have gone back again. Are we discussing the PIB again?
We are not discussing the PIB because the PIB was signed and we had the PIA.
Of course, when we talk about the implementation,
So,
there
yes,
has
it
been
becomes,
backtracking.
yes, but however, with apparently the presidency never took real consideration for the removal of fuel subsidy, which is embedded in the PIA, and it went on to sign it and assent to it, and we had it in operation. And then the issue came up: if we're operating the PIA, then fuel subsidy has got to go. It's no longer legal to operate the PIA and then continue with the fuel subsidy.
There was a 12-month.
Yes, there was, which In fact, in the bill itself, in the act itself,
Yeah.
it was actually a 6 month provision.
Yeah.
So it was even the presidency that created a 12 month implementation committee. So in real uh, time,
Yeah.
the full implementation of the PIA ought to have commenced already
This
this
month.
February.
Yeah.
So now the presidency dilly-dallying on whether to continue or not, because as we speak, he made a proposal which was announced, but we've not seen him forwarding that request to the National Assembly for the extension
Yeah.
of the PIB implementation. But as we speak, in truth, in real terms, there really needs to be a clarification on where the sector is at. Is it operating under PIA or it's still operating the old regime?
Maybe sometime in the future we need to discuss this issue, whether we are still in the PIA or PIB. Now, the way forward to all of this, it seems to be the only savior of this economy when it comes to all of this importation of dirty fuel. You know, to tell you the truth, I've never heard about any such thing in any country. Maybe because of my limited exposure to what happens in other countries, but I have never heard about any such thing in other countries. The fact that the European Union allows the export of such fuel to
Other
countries that are
countries.
willing to buy. Maybe it happens in other countries, but
Mm.
I don't know. I haven't heard about it. It's only here that I've heard about it.
And the issue of this having a higher um, volume of methanol,
Yes.
we've not had it
We've
before.
not had it.
We've not
That
had it
is
before. So
lower than the
yes,
standard approved
yes,
by Nigeria.
by Nigeria,
And
and then
it's sickening because this thing is putting the health of everybody on the line. The PIA is one aspect, but then maybe this importation of fuel, um, the Dangote refinery may just be the way out, the way out because there are people. It's not that these guys didn't know what they were importing. I doubt they did not know. They knew what they were importing. They knew what they were importing. Whoever imported that dirty fuel knew. These are not novices like you and I.
mhm.
These are people who are professionals, highly knowledgeable of the doings in the industry. And if they pretend to make such mistake, I seriously doubt it. So maybe the coming on stream of this Dangote refinery may just be another sucker.
Mm.
Mhm. We continue to talk about
In
Dangote
fact,
refinery.
a lot is hinged on the coming on stream
Yes, of Dangote
of
refinery.
Dangote refinery. uh, we just hope that, you know, there's this situation in Nigeria where you put a lot of hope. I remember in the past when elections are coming up, we see the candidate that is coming as the country's messiah.
Yeah.
I hope we are not putting that much uh, 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 um, in as much as the Dangote refinery holds a lot of prospects for the country to be able to stop its age-long importation of petroleum or fuel for consumption within the country. I hope we are not hinging too much on it and not making alternative arrangements.
Mhm.
And
Now, just before we go, let's discuss something that is just related to this Dangote refinery. The Dangote refinery, the crude oil, the sale of crude oil it's an international price. It's not that you can decide to sell. Okay, if it were a state-owned enterprise, you would say, okay, the state can subsidize production at this level, and then uh, uh, the price remains at a certain level. But this is a businessman who has invested billions of dollars that he borrowed from places. He needs to pay back these people. It is not going to sound reasonable to say that Dangote should sell his fuel at 162 naira or 165 naira after pumping all of that money into investing. And that is borrowed funds, in fact.
You mentioned something about it being a state-owned, but you seem to
I
forget
said
that
it's not a state-owned.
it's not a state-owned,
Mhm.
but to an extent, with the equity that NNPC, you didn't
Yes, NNPC
factor
has
that.
20%.
Yes.
Yes, and that
Mhm.
20%, maybe they will be able to, with that stake, maybe they will be able to subsidize the sale or contribute that to the refinery, and we have a softer price for consumers. Maybe that would be the case, but other than that, Dangote refinery is not going to operate as a philanthropist.
Yes, and there was also a report somewhere, though not substantiated, where it was mentioned that Dangote refinery was more or less targeting exports.
Okay, you see the point. So are we going to have the situation where we have gas being exported and then we have a higher price here? Like we said, all of this are things we are actually going to see play out in the future. There's still a huge cloud of uncertainty.
Uncertainty.
Yes.
And that's why I said that government um, does not have to rest all its egg in the basket of Dangote refinery.
Yes.
There should be some other, because Dangote is coming up as a private,
Yes, but BUA is building another refinery in Akwa Ibom.
also private.
It's also private. And even if you want to revive the four refineries, the four public refineries, you can sell at a different price. That is like a trade diversion somehow, as the economists would say, as trade diversion. You can sell at a lower price, whereas the price of these people who have invested is higher than yours. Of course, I doubt those refineries are going to come on strength because the cost of production in those refineries will be far higher than the state of the art technology that's being put into the refineries of Dangote and BUA. So I doubt they will be able to compete. They will just die. And as we will say, this is what we call creative destruction in economics. Yes, better ways of doing things that will kill the old ways of doing it, as that is creative destruction. And there's still a huge cloud of uncertainty. A huge cloud of uncertainty. Those of you who are in the energy business, who are aficionados of the energy business, you will have to. It's your responsibility to clarify some of these issues to us in the future, especially to the people who listen to us. So
Yes,
we'll
like we have seen, this has the bad fuel situation has thrown up a lot of questions that in the coming days ahead, we will be seeking to get the authorities to respond to. And as we get them to do that, we'll bring them before our viewers so that we all can be well informed.
yes, we have to be well informed. That fuel I see there, it's really looking like dirty water. It's not just dirty, it's dirty liquid. I wonder, people, if not, maybe it will be even safer buying that fuel from jerry cans, so transparent jerry cans, and you'll be
So
able to
that
see what is going to.
what's going into.
Ah, people can be wicked. As I will draw the curtain today on Money Radio, we have been on the energy focus segment of the program on the Leadership TV. So, thank you very much for being here with us today. Thanks to our producers, and our biggest thanks go to you who loyally follow us. Until we meet for another edition of Money Radio tomorrow, it's been my pleasure being here with you. My name is Keith Hammond. Stay with us. Stay tuned tomorrow as we bring you a more bumper edition of the program. COVID-19 is real. Go and get your jab and observe social distancing. Stay blessed.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.